Am I the asshole for getting upset that my sister's fiance pulled me aside and patted me down at their wedding? I'm 24 and I'm an addict who's been in recovery for the past 6 months. I used and used until I was basically in poverty, and my older sister helped bail me out more than once. She's my best friend, and I know it hurt her a lot to see me like that. She also met her fiance 2 years ago, and he really only knew me as the junkie brother then. He's not my biggest fan, to say the least, considering how much I put my sister through. Despite this, she still invited me to her wedding last week. When I got to the reception, my brother-in-law is greeting people as they walk in. When I walk by, he pulls me to the side and in front of everyone starts patting me down and says that he needs to check me to make sure I didn't bring anything in. I instinctively pull away because why wouldn't I? And tell him not to touch me. He tells me to calm down and that if I want to be here, then he needs to do this. I tell him he's being ridiculous, and I try to push past him. He stops me and tells me that if he doesn't want to throw me out, but he will if he has to. I told him that he's trying to look tough, but it's just making him look stupid. At this point, I'm getting more and more angry, and I'm practically yelling in his face at this point. Bystanders come between us and separate us, and told my brother-in-law to just drop it. He said he would, but they can deal with it when I get out of hand. After the reception, a lot of my family told me that I should have just let him do it, and that I was acting like a huge asshole, and like I had something to hide. I don't think he had any right to pat me down, especially in front of people, and I don't think my reaction was over the top. If anything, he was the one acting like a huge douche by trying to start drama so he can look tough. My sister has refused to take any sides on this. Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole for sending someone's fiance the lewd and insulting messages he sent me? I'm 37 female was somewhat wild in college as I slept with multiple guys and partied. I never did anything illegal, dangerous, or immoral though. I'm now happily married with 2 kids and have no regrets about my fun times while in college. A few months ago, some guy I hadn't talked to since I was 18 and a freshman in college sent me messages on social media. These messages were horrible. It was basically a drunk rant about how I was a huge WHORE and I spread my legs for anyone. I immediately blocked him and ignored them. I recently saw a post though from his new fiance who I used to be friends with in college and haven't talked to in years. He posted announcing their engagement and gushing about how he's the kindest, most gentle, wonderful guy in the world. I was pissed that he was pretending to be some great guy while harassing me in his spare time. So I forwarded her all the messages that he sent me. He contacted me and got my number from a mutual friend, freaking out. He told me I was insane and jealous of his fiance. I didn't think I did anything wrong, but our mutual friends are all on his side. They said it's crazy for me to contact his fiance, who I hadn't spoken to in over a decade, over some drunk messages he claims he didn't even remember sending me. A few even said he had only told the truth since I did sleep around in college.
Story time about the girl who used me to get with my guy best friend. So a little background information, I was 15 and in 9th grade. Well, at the end of summer, right before school started, this girl named Liv added me on Snapchat. And I had seen her all around school. She was very popular and a little bit stuck up. But I added her back and then I got a call on Snapchat from her. I answered very awkwardly and I'm like, hi. And then she was like, oh, I've seen you in a lot of this guy's pictures. Are you guys like best friends? And I'm like, yeah, sort of. And she goes, have you ever thought about dating him? It was just an extremely weird, out of nowhere conversation. Anyway, so fast forward 2 weeks, I walk in the first day of school with my best friend Tommy, and Tommy and I have like every single class together. For some reason, Liv thought that we were friends and she would come and go as she pleased. Like Tommy and I would be standing at my locker, she would come over. Anyways, fast forward to chemistry. So like I said, we were in chemistry, she walks in and she winks at Tommy. And I look over real quick and I realize that her nails were vermilion. That's Tommy's favorite color. And by the way, like I said before, I did not know this girl at all. We had never hung out. She never talked to me before this. Not to mention, anytime that her and I talked, she would only talk about Tommy. Fast forward a couple days, we're in chemistry, and somehow she got her assigned seat next to me. And she was like, hey, do you want to study for the chemistry test together? And I was kind of excited because I thought that I had a new best friend. So I said, yeah. Later on, she comes to my house. I never told her an address or anything like that. So I was very creeped out about how she knew my address. We studied for the test and she goes, hey, do you want to hang out with Tommy and a few other guys tomorrow? Well, tomorrow was the day that I was going out of town. So she goes, okay, maybe next week. After being out of town, I came back on a Saturday, and the next day I get a text from Tommy. He was flipping out on me. He said that I was talking shit about him to Liv, and apparently I said that I was happy that his mother died, and a bunch of other bullshit. Well, after that, Tommy cut me off, so I was lonely, and I started hanging out with Liv more, even though she said that terrible stuff to Tommy and made him cut me off. So fast forward a year, he is a new best friend, right? I get a DM from her on Instagram saying like, hey, did Tommy used to be your best friend? Pretty much everybody knew what happened between me and Tommy, but she was like, that girl that you're best friends with is dating him now. And then he completely cut me off. So technically she used both her and I to get with Tommy. But after dating for literally like 2 months, he cheated on her because she slept with 5 other guys.
It was at a local mall a few years ago. I was there with a friend. She went into the bathroom and I was waiting alone outside the bathroom. It was near closing hours, so it wasn't surprising that some guard told me that it was almost time to leave. But before I could respond to it, I took one good look at him and my stomach turned. It was not a guard, but he acted like he was. He then offered to escort me out of the building. People walked past and I noticed his badge was plastic and from some toy store. I just told him no and kept on waiting for my friend. Every time I looked at him, my stomach turned and I got shivers. When my friend got out of the bathroom, he was gone. She asked me who I was talking to, and after I told her, we got out of there quick. A week after, I was there again to get some stuff and asked an actual security guard about the guy from earlier. They had to escort him out several times because he kept posing as a guard to get teenagers to come into his car. I haven't seen the guy since, and it still gives me the creeps when I see that bathroom door. Waiting there felt like years. Who knows what could have happened if I listened to him. I also wonder if anyone ever actually followed him. I hope not. When I was 10 years old, my grandma was watching my younger siblings and me while our parents were at a weekend-long work conference. We were sitting in the living room eating pancakes, and my siblings were watching cartoons while I read the newest Harry Potter book, which had just come out the day before. My brother asked my grandma for more pancakes and she started to get up. I was only half paying attention because I was engrossed in my book, but out of the corner of my eye, I felt like she was taking longer than usual. She tried to get up, but her leg wouldn't move. She tried to pick it up with her hands, but one of her hands wouldn't move. I knew something was wrong and I put down my book. Then she fell out of her chair onto the floor. I screamed and she tried to tell me that she was fine. Her leg had just fallen asleep and she tripped, but her voice was coming out all slurred and only half of her face was moving. I recognized the signs of a stroke. I ran into the kitchen. She had no cell phone back then and called 911. Well, first I called my best friend, the only number I could remember, and asked her mum if I needed to dial an area code before 911. Then I called 911. Meanwhile, my siblings got the handyman who was mowing the backyard to come in and help out. The ambulance arrived and they took her to the hospital, and I don't remember much else. My best friend's mum must have somehow gotten a hold of my parents because they did eventually show up at the hospital. But here's the good news. Because she was treated so quickly, she made a full recovery and is still alive and in good health almost 20 years later. I was sitting on the beach alone and noticed that a man walking along the water was staring at me. I tried to shake it off, thinking maybe he had friends or family somewhere behind and wasn't actually looking at me. He started walking up from the water and walked right up to me, but he didn't stop and circled around me. I felt awkward, so I didn't make eye contact. He walked away. I'm thinking at the time maybe it was in my head. About an hour later, he came back and did the same thing. Went down to the water, looked at me, and then started walking up to me. He came right up to me again, and as he starts to circle me, I look at him and notice he's staring not only at me, but also at all of my things, like he was taking inventory of what I had with me. I finally said, "Can I help you?" And he seemed surprised that I spoke up and says, "Oh, no, 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 no," and walks away. After he walked away, I couldn't shake the uneasy gut feeling. They say when you know something is wrong, not to ignore your gut feeling. And I can't explain it, but I knew. I was too scared to walk back to my car alone, so I ended up walking over to another man nearby who had been keeping to himself and told him what had happened and that I just wanted someone to walk back to the parking lot with so I wouldn't have to walk back alone. He confirmed that the man was in fact totally watching me the entire time I was there. He noticed and said he saw him creeping around a couple other girls as well. That beach is ruined for me. As I walked back with a kind stranger, I still felt like I was being watched and I was paranoid my entire drive home. I'm so thankful for that kind stranger. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and if you feel like you're in danger, don't ignore that
really
feeling.
need to let you know, regrets been my friend too long, too long. So final, Commas, the beach is so blue, where the waves come back to you, always back to you. Can feel sand between my toes, slipping round like Jack Sparrow. Let me try to explain, oh, let me try to explain, oh. I came here to drink it all away, still drink it all away, swear I'm not lying. Then I saw you sitting over there, it's been a couple years, hey, what's up with you tonight? Perdí mi número, puedo tener.
Hi guys, thank you for watching. I love you guys so much. Please like and subscribe to see more great videos. See you again.